Alright, so in this video I want to talk a little bit about future trends in real estate, things that I see coming out this year. We just started the new year 2025 and there's a lot to be excited about, especially in real estate. I mean, in every industry really, there's just a lot of innovation going on. I saw a tweet the other day that it said that it feels like the early 2000s with the internet. And I mean, I was a kid back then, but I can only imagine when the internet first became a thing and people could, go on websites and create websites. And I think that's happening right now with technology. There's just a big advance. These AI, the large language models, have really changed the game. They've made knowledge work very easy, and that includes the real estate industry. So I wanted to take this video to just talk a little bit about some of the major trends that are shaping the industry and that I think will continue to gain some traction in the coming year. Just my thoughts on it. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is AI in general. And so specifically these large language models, which I've spoken about before in some of my videos, but I think in 2025, these models will only continue to get better. And basically, like I explained it before, but what a large language model is what ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity. So these models, what they do is they have a large data set of words, and you ask them questions or you talk to them, and they give you an answer based off predictions that they gather based on the data they were trained on. So it's a complex process. There's a lot of math involved. I'm not quite sure how it works, but I know that these large language models work, and the answers that it gives you are very good, and they're only going to get better, in my opinion. And so, for example, OpenAI just released a GPT Pro, which is $200 a month, but it's pretty good. I tried it out. I don't think it's worth $200 a month, but I tried it out, and the answers are pretty good. It gives you a more thorough answer. But to go back to the point, I think LLMs are going to really take over the real estate world, because there's a lot what these LLMs allow you to do. They allow you to ask questions, and they allow you to do research a lot faster. And so you can give it, for example, a list of listings in the area, or a list of possible properties that you're interested in, or for example, if we're in construction, or different estimates. And it's basically like if you had an assistant that doesn't mess up that much, and you gave them your data or you gave them what you need, and they give it back to you in seconds. And so right now my workflows, I use LLMs a lot, and I'm pretty tech forward. I'm pretty knowledgeable with tech, more so than the average person, I would say. And I use it like literally. I have it open in one monitor. My LLM of choice is ChatGPT. I sometimes use Claude, especially for code creation. But ChatGPT I think it's quick and it's best, and I like the interface the best. But I'll have it open in one tab, and I'll be doing underwritings, or I'll be doing like some sort of like a pro forma, or even like looking at lease agreements, looking at sales contracts, purchase contracts, and I'll just run it through there, and I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or ask questions related to what I actually need, and I'll just wait for it, kind of like if I was to ask my assistant that's next to me. And so I think this is going to gain more widespread adoption in 2025. I think that, for example, I came onto this quite early. Again, I really like tech. I like to be in the know with tech, but it usually takes a couple of years for the masses to start using it. And so I see more and more people start to use it. And so what this does is it speeds up times. So offers will be faster. Getting contracts out will be faster. Lawyers are using this. Lawyers are using AI every day to create contracts and to give them kind of like the skeleton that they're going to work with. Everything just gets faster. Even code, we're working on a few tech projects right now, and the programmers are using Cursor and Claude and these AI tools to create code, and they're programming 3 or 4 times faster than they used to be. And I know, like, we're not the only ones. There's people that are way ahead of us, but people that are adopting these products are just getting like a step ahead. And it really is, if you don't use it, you get left behind. So I'll talk a little bit more about applying it into your real estate business in a little bit. But yeah, I think large language models, I saw another tweet and it said, people used to say software is eating the world. Now AI is eating software. And I agree with that. I think AI is going to take over what people's workflows, and you're just going to be using it a lot. So what's going to happen, in my opinion, is, well, one of the things that could happen is people lose their jobs, because now you don't need people to really do research. You have somebody that can do research for you. But the smart ones and the people that are really trying to get ahead, they will get good at using this. And so now, for example, if I had somebody that knows how to leverage AI like I do, I would hire them to do a lot of things for me. But I know that they can do it faster, because it's like I have two brains now. I have an assistant and I have somebody else assisting them that has all the knowledge in the world and the internet available at their fingertips. So the key thing with these products, these AI products, is you have to know how to prompt them. So you have to know what to ask them, you have to know how to format the prompt. And so it becomes really important to know what you're talking about, because it could easily give you a load of bullshit, to be frank. But if you do know what you're talking about, it gives you the answer, and it's almost like you know what the answer is, but you really have to think about it and work through it. Like, it just thinks about it like that and it works through it like that. So again, faster processes is the main thing with that AI does. The second thing that I think might gain some traction in 2025 is blockchain. So I know the Trump campaign, love him or hate him, whatever, but apparently he's going to be pro crypto. And so real estate is not really affected by crypto per se, but I think it might be affected by blockchain technology. And there are a few ways, and people have been saying this for years, that, blockchain is going to get into real estate. Blockchain is going to get into real estate. I'm still not quite sure where blockchain fits in real estate. I know at first people were really adamant about adding it to title, and a little bit of background. So blockchain is the technology, for example, that Bitcoin runs on, and it decentralizes. It's like a decentralized verification system. So, for example, if you're working with a bank, the bank is verifying. It's a private entity or public. Some banks are public, but anyways, it's a company that's verifying how much money every person has, and all the money that comes in or out is verified by them. And so the amount of money that is in your bank account, it's basically them telling you, like, hey, this is how much money you have in your bank account. And so this creates mistrust, because there's a potential for bad actors and for people to, there's bank fraud. I'm not quite sure, like, the decentralization, and I'm not quite sure how strong that argument is, because I do think the banks, there might be some bad actors, but I do think they do a pretty good job. But anyways, what blockchain does is it decentralizes it. So now, instead of a centralized entity, a bank, verifying these transactions, now they're on the chain. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to explain this in easy terms. A chain, or a blockchain technology, the community is the one that verifies it. And so all these computers they're called nodes. They verify the transactions and they get posted onto the chain. For my crypto heads, I think I'm explaining it right. I try to do some research on it. But anyways, it decentralizes the verification. So it's a decentralized system where you're not relying on an entity to verify your transactions. And so in real estate, the first thing that I heard of in real estate was title companies, because title, you want to have verification of title passing from one person to another, or one entity to another. And so the title companies record this, and it gets recorded in the county and all this stuff. And so people wanted to implement this in real estate, and so they wanted to have the title on the blockchain, so it's verified and nobody can change it. That's another thing about blockchain, is immutable. Like, nobody can go in, like a county, a person that works for the building department can go in and, like, change what the title is, or for a bank, nobody can go in and overwrite how much money somebody has. So, and I'm honestly not sure of what protections these entities have, which is the main reason. Like, nobody really knows who's controlling these entities. So in a blockchain, it's open source usually, and people can see what's going on. So I can look up in theory, you can look up any transaction, or in this case, any title passing from one person to another. And so that's why people wanted to implement it into real estate. And so I haven't heard of anybody using blockchain for title. Maybe there's a few companies that are trying to do it, but I have not myself have not used any type of blockchain technology for title. I'm not even sure if it's legal. So that's the other hurdle that you have to jump through with blockchain, is the legal aspect, because there's a lot of regulations. And so, I mean, one of my thoughts on that is that as society progresses, like you go through the cycles of almost like order and disorder. So, you know, when there's too much order, when there's too many laws, there's too many governing bodies, and too much say in what people can and can't do, then you get people wanting these decentralized systems. But then when it gets crazy and there's no control, people want to be centralized. That's why you see people, you know, that's why you see like communist societies and then democracy and communists and whatever. And so it's just like a cycle. So I think you need to keep a good balance. I'm not quite sure how blockchain will do with real estate, but I do think people will start considering it more as it becomes more of an avenue, especially with the Trump regime, especially if they advocate for it. Other ways that it could be used is the I've seen people do tokenization of real estate. I think there's some companies that do that, where basically you can invest in real estate by buying a token, and so the real estate is divided into tokens. For example, Bitcoin, there's X amount of millions of tokens, and it's distributed amongst people. And if people think it's more valuable, the price goes up. So the same thing, like let's say I take my property that I'm in right now and I make it into a token. I'm not quite sure how the legal side would work with this, but in theory, I turn into a token, not physically, but I create a token that says, hey, this is the deed to my house, this signifies ownership to my house, and I split it up into, let's say, 10 shares, and I give one, and they sell the tokens out for $100,000, you know, so it gets split out, and then the house is worth $1 million. Each token is worth $100,000. And so what this would do is, okay, you can sell your tokens, and those people get ownership. So if the house goes up, you know, in value, then people can sell their tokens, their house tokens, for more than they were worth before. So that's an interesting way of looking at blockchain, but I'm not sure I don't know what the benefit of that would be, as opposed to partnering up to buy a real estate deal. I guess it opens up, it makes it more security-like, and that's another issue. You might run into like some securities issues when you try to do that. Again, I'm not too sure on the legal side. I haven't looked into it, but what I think it would be kind of cool, because now you can just open up your wallet and maybe have like a marketplace of houses, and you can buy fractional ownership in them and receive maybe passive income based off of it. It's actually not a bad idea. So I think that could gain some steam, because it makes investing in real estate more accessible. You know, a lot of people are hesitant to invest in real estate because it's such a hurdle. Like, you have to get a lawyer, you have to get a realtor, you have to do, you know, or you have to get a broker, you have to work with mortgage broker or mortgage lenders, and in commercial it's even more complex, you know, and it takes a long time. Sometimes closings take years. So if you just take care of all of that up front, tokenize it, and then you're able to transact the ownership of the home, I think that's actually a pretty good idea. But I think it will gain steam, and I think somebody is going to build some sort of marketplace for it. I think it'll be sustainable too, because it's not speculative. It's based off an actual asset. So yeah, blockchain, I think will gain some steam in real estate. I also I was listening to the All In podcast, and one of the people on the podcast was talking about stablecoin. So stablecoin is a blockchain token, but it's backed by the dollar, or backed by some sort of currency. So it's like, for example, USD coin, which is backed by the US dollar. So a lot of the issues with blockchain, the cryptocurrencies, for example, Bitcoin, people say there's no value because it's not backed by anything. It's backed by, like, it's only valued because people think it's worth a lot. Whereas opposed to a stock, people think it's worth, stock is worth more or less based on the company's output. It's tied to the company. So Bitcoin is not really tied to anything. So that's people's arguments against the value of Bitcoin. But stable coins are a little bit different because they're backed by the dollar. So it's like, okay, they have the strength of the dollar. So it's like trading a dollar bill. in essence. And so I heard in that podcast that people are using stable coins to just transact quicker and to save on fees. So I think one of the people, they said that they implemented some sort of rails for their payment system instead of Stripe. For those that are not really into tech, Stripe is like a payment platform. They charge you 3% plus change on your transactions. So he implemented, I guess, stablecoin rails and to be able to transact. And so I guess maybe you can bring the cost down. My thing that I thought with that is like, wouldn't it cost, isn't there transaction fees? I haven't really used stable coins, so I'm not sure what the transaction fees, but I have purchased Bitcoin and Ethereum, and depending on when you buy or sell, the transaction fees can be pretty high, like higher than you would pay for a wire that you would send from a bank. So I don't know how cost cutting using blockchain is. I'm sure you could make it more price efficient, but I don't think we're there yet. But it'd be interesting to see. Maybe the stable coins do make it in. That doesn't really have to do with real estate. It's more just in general. I heard that the other day, and it was pretty interesting. So I think moving forward, like those are the two things that are really like tech-wise. I think those will they will make a big difference moving forward in the real estate industries, the AI, the LLMs, and the blockchain. One note on the LLMs, the large language models, I think that there's these companies that are making agents. So these agents are large language models, but they can also perform tasks. Like, for example, you could tell her like, hey, read through my email and send this specific email out. Or maybe, I'm not sure, I haven't used it, but maybe read the email and here's what I would answer. So send something similar to it. I think these agents will be pretty big in the real estate, because a lot of times, in real estate, you have your employees are looking at Excel spreadsheets, reading emails, answering emails. So I think they will take care of that. I think as we move forward, like these AI agents will definitely start taking over, and it's going to make a big difference on people who can form connections with people, because one thing that an AI agent can't really do is form like a personal connection. So I can't talk to you and form a connection with you if I'm not there. Like nobody's gonna want to speak to a robot. At least right now, I don't think so. I wouldn't want to speak to a robot and put my trust in a robot. I want to talk to a person and put my trust in a person. So emails is fine. I think phone calls, I don't think the AI is there yet. I don't know if it'll ever be there yet. I don't know. I think humans have this like emotional thing where you can really connect. So, but yeah, AI and blockchains, I think. So the second thing I wanted to hit is how businesses and developers or people in real estate, how we can kind of prepare and move forward. I think the first action that anybody can take is just start using these models. Like open up ChatGPT, go on OpenAI, make an account, start asking it questions and see how it works. I think that's the first step, is really just learn how it works. And then you kind of go down a rabbit hole of, okay, now I'm just using ChatGPT regularly. Like, let me learn how to prompt properly now. Okay, now let me start adding spreadsheets in there. Let me start putting long PDFs. There's a good tool on Google. It's called Notebook LM, which you can literally put all your PDFs on there and ask it any questions about it. And it can even reason through some questions that you ask it. So for example, contracts, you could ask it, hey, what does this contract say? Or hey, clause 3 of the contract, if it's like a 100-page contract, what part talks about, the closing costs? And it'll find it for you. That way you don't have to sit there for hours reading. It'll find it for you, and then you'll go look at the actual contract. So a good way to use these tools is to use them for like the initial like what you initially need. So for example, that contract example, hey, find me the clause where it talks about closing costs. Then it's going to tell you, and then you go and verify on the actual contract, because sometimes the AIs do hallucinate. Hallucination means that their prediction is wrong. They say the wrong thing. And this happens, it's getting less and less, but it does happen. And it could be a pretty big mistake if you just take what it says for granted and you don't verify. So, you know, I'm in law school right now. I use AI when I want to ask it questions that my professor maybe didn't clear up, and I ask it, and honestly 95% of the time it's correct. But I always verify and go look back at the textbook, you know, maybe ask my professor, and so I get the right answer. But it speeds up the learning process a lot. So yeah, I think that's the first thing that any business or developer or real estate agent, broker, whatever could use, is literally just open up ChatGPT and start using it like how you would use Google or how you would use your assistant. I think that another step is to start adding workflows that utilize this AI, these large language models. So for example, if you have a workflow right now where you have somebody that looks at, analyzes a deal or looks at a person's data for, let's say, a loan application to see what they would get, I think you just create like you could create a simple script, or again, there's these like AI agent tools, which I haven't used, but what comes to mind is using Zapier, which automates tasks, or using Make or one of those tools to take, let's say, a spreadsheet or any file that you input into a folder, use it, like connect it to AI, to ChatGPT or one of those APIs, and have it output a response, and then have that go into database. Then now your assistant can just look at all that information and say for example, you have a sheet that has every single client information that you're getting, all the applications. So you have it filed through, like I said, you put an automation that you put this Excel spreadsheet into a folder. Okay, the folder is interpreted by OpenAI or whatever LLM, and it outputs some sort of response. For example, hey, this person qualifies for $200,000. This person qualifies for $300,000 X, and now your assistant or you can now just have the result and look at it. And again, you verify, you know, but most of the time it's going to be correct, and it's going to do a better job than your assistant, and it's going to be more accurate too. So I think it's finding these processes where you don't need people to do it. And a lot of the positions that are like, you know, people that are just inputting data, or like I said, just looking at numbers and using like whenever you have a preset formula that you use, that's perfect for automation, and that's perfect for these AI models because they can really read formulas and apply them pretty well. Very good. They're very good with math, and especially like these models, like the Pro model for OpenAI is pretty good with creating, literally doing a lot of research and a lot of analysis that you're probably paying people, even if you're paying people overseas, you know, $5 to $8 an hour, you're still going to be paying less for these large language models. So that's the second step. The third step that you could also take is there's these people are creating these solutions called RAGs, and RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And so these RAGs, what you can basically do is the way that I would describe it to somebody that's not tech, that's not very tech, is not into tech, is you take all your files from your company or anything. It could be my school notes, it could be a company, it could be financial files. You take all of them, you put them into database, specifically what's called a vector database, but you put it into database. Let's say you put it into this folder. The RAG queries, so let's say you ask a question on your end, you ask a question about it. So you could say, hey, what were my transactions on September 9th, 2022? So what it's going to do, it's going to query the database, and it's going to say, okay, what words, it's almost like when you press Command F or Control F and you type in, you know, September 22, it's going to look for that, okay, and then it's going to give the possible answers to ChatGPT. ChatGPT then is going to interpret it. It's going to say, okay, this is the question, these are the possible answers. It's going to match it together, and it's going to give you an output answer based on what you said. So it's a pretty cool tool. The final output would look something like this. Like, for example, hey, what were my transactions on September 22, 2022? And the model, the RAG, it's like a chat. It's like AI, like OpenAI, you know, like ChatGPT. It's gonna output the answer as, hey, on September 22, 2022, here were your transactions. Boom, 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 boom. Also, you might have noticed something else. And so it's going to give you like a very thought out, like thoughtful answer, especially if you prompt it better. You're like, hey, what were my transactions September 22? Also, please tell me any trends that you see with this data. And so it'll give you that. And ChatGPT now can create tables, can create graphs. It can even create code that you can plug in very easily and create like small web applications. So that's another step. The final step that I think more businesses are going to move to is to start creating their own software. SaaS, software as a service products, are getting pretty expensive. And these AI models, like you can hire an overseas, or you can just have a programmer on board, or you can even maybe learn yourself. And you can start putting together apps, like very simple apps. For example, we're working with a client right now. We're making a dashboard for him for like just very simple dashboard for his employees to clock their hours, to have project tracking progress. And so there's a bunch of SaaS products out there that do that, but we can create it in a matter of days or weeks with AI. My programmers, they leverage AI and they work very fast, and we're able to get solutions. And so now it's like, okay, what problems do I have in my company? And that technology can solve. Now it's just like you thinking of a problem, and now you can solve it right away. You don't have to wait for a new SaaS to come out, or you don't have to use Excel sheets to solve it, or you don't have to hire a $200,000 a year programmer. Like, you can solve it yourself. So I think as a company, you should start looking for these opportunities, because they're going to come eventually. So it might not be 2025, it might be 2026, 2027, but you're going to have to start implementing this, or your business is not going to keep up. You're not going to be able to compete. So I think that's like a pretty big movement that's going to start happening, and that you're going to see more. And again, I think sometimes I'm very biased because I'm in it. But once the masses start adopting it, it starts catching like wildfire, so it's better to be on the early side, especially when these tools are so good. They help so much. Like, my whole workflow has changed from 2 years ago to now. But yeah, let me get some water. All right. So kind of to wrap up, my thought is that these large language models and blockchain, specifically tokenized real estate, have a good chance to start taking over in 2025. I think it's very groundbreaking technology that everybody should be using. I don't think it's a trend. I don't think it's a fad. I think these are here to stay, like the internet, like social media. Like, these things start out kind of as trends, as fads, but the technology is real and it's here. It is here, in my opinion. And I think that people should start implementing it in their business. Like I said, just literally try it out and you'll see it's like magic. It feels and looks like magic. Specifically these large language models or these agents, I think try it out, implement it in your business, start training your employees on it. So once you are aware of it, get your employees on it. You're gonna start figuring out that you can have less employees and have more output. So my programming team, we cut from 8 people to 4, my engineering team, for my business, because we just kept the best ones and we taught them how to use AI, and now they work. We had the same output. We didn't lose a step at all, and they work better. Same thing with the people in our construction company, my family's construction company. We fired people and we actually have the same output because we just equipped these people with AI tools. And people are scared that it's going to take their jobs, but it won't take your job if you learn how to use them. Because now you'll be indispensable, you'll be invaluable. And so now it gets back to an even playing ground. It's like, okay, who's actually better? And people will compete for jobs how they used to before. But now, that's going to be like a prerequisite. It's going to be like, using AI is going to be like learning how to use a computer back in the 2000s. So people that learn how to use a computer were more valuable than those who didn't. So it's just the same thing. It's just society is just getting more advanced technologically. So those are my predictions for 2025 from a technical standpoint. From a real estate standpoint, I'm really hoping that the housing market picks up a little bit, at least in Florida. I'm not too sure about other markets. I know the Fed has said they're not going to lower interest rates too much more, but I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how they're going to stimulate the economy, or how they're going to to get us out of this little financial rut that we're in, especially from the real estate side. I know there's still housing necessity in the markets that we're in. We're still selling. The selling has not been as good, but we're still renting out our homes that we build. But at least in Florida, I mean, a lot of people are still moving to Florida. So I think Florida is going to be fine for 2025. But I am interested to see if they're able to really get the market to pick up again. Because right now it's pretty slow. It's just pretty slow everywhere. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, honestly. I don't really have a prediction. I think my prediction is that it'll stay the same this year. I think this year will be very similar to last year as far as market demand and market supply. One thing that I saw is that, I mean, prices are not really lowering much. They're just not super high like they were before. Like there's not really any, you know, over asking price offers, at least in residential. I'm not too sure about commercial, but rents are about the same. I think it is going to stay pretty similar to how it is right now in Florida, and I mean, I'm sure it'll be like that in the other states as well. Yeah, there's not really too much movement to say. I think the biggest change is going to be how people run their businesses, honestly, in 2025, and I think they're going to implement a lot of technology, and they're going to start cutting their budgets in that way. They're going to add technology, and they're going to start maybe firing people or doing deals in a more efficient way, because now they have these tools to be able to better locate deals and to be able to better do underwriting. So I think that's my prediction for 2025, is that that's going to be a bigger change than the actual market itself. I think the market stays pretty still. I don't see how the market changes unless they decide to drop the interest rates. You know, I think if they decide to drop the interest rates, then the market definitely picks up. I know there's a lot of people, especially people my age. I talk to my friends that are not in real estate at all, and a lot of them are waiting for the interest rates to drop to buy a house because it's just too expensive for them. You know, so even though wages rose during COVID and they stayed pretty high, you know, it's inflation, the prices are not budging, but it's way more expensive to them for them to buy a house and take out a mortgage at, you know, 6.5%, 7% than it was to take it out at 2.5%, 3%, even 4%. So I think it's gonna be really depend on the interest rates. And again, I don't think they said they weren't really gonna lower them this year, so I think that's what's gonna stay. So, but yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know if you like it. I'll do more videos like this and just talk about what my thoughts are on things. You know, we have quite a bit of experience running a construction company, and now on the tech side with the implementations that we've been doing in our business and our products that we've been developing on the tech side, and also the help we've also been working with other real estate companies to implement these tech solutions in their operations. So yeah, let me know how you like it. Thank you.